Hello, this is the kubeadm office hours. Today is the 7th of July, 2021. Let me share my screen. So, as a topic for today, I wanted to give a quick status update before the code freeze of 122 tomorrow. We wanted to add a couple of features in this release, and this was the new API, which is V1 Beta 3. And we pretty much completed most of the tasks for it. One pending item is the documentation update in the Kubernetes website to point users to use the new API as the preferred version at this point. As you can see, we added a lot of features. You can check them out. Basically, I'm saying this for the recording, whoever is watching, and for the folks present on the call. We dropped a few features, and because the picture was not very clear around them, the first one we dropped was the kubelet run directory. We also dropped the idea of configurable pause image completely. This is going to be ideally handled by the kubelet one day. We also dropped handling of duplicate extra arcs. This saw some recent discussion right before, like, last week maybe. But it's still not very clear how we're going to approach it, maybe in the next release of the API. At CDSA, the picture is not very clear how we're going to do it. Maybe we should remove it as a feature gate, but we also dropped this one. And this was very late in the cycle. Like, how do we, in a more granular level, control what timeouts kubeadm has for etcd, for kubelet bootstrap? There was some good ideas around this by a contributor from China, but it was too late in the release, so we decided to drop it as an idea from this API. The second feature we worked on was the rootless control plane, which is basically running kubeadm with a possibility to have the static pod containers to run as not the root user, but as a different user. There was a cap for that, which you can find here. We did a lot of code changes. All the PRs merged at this point. We also did a lot of debugging and getting the end-to-end tests to be good. We're not adding documentation for this feature because it's alpha. That's like standard practice in kubeadm. But somebody walked an issue on the Kubernetes website. I don't think it's linked here. So basically, the idea was to start documenting the kubeadm feature gates. Even if it's minimal, we should have some sort of a page to list what feature gates we have. Let me open a new window to show you what I mean. So core Kubernetes currently has a list of feature gates, and those are not ideally documented currently, but there's still some enumeration at the website. That's something that the Kubernetes website maintainers really like, but the same people pointed out that we don't have one for kubeadm. At the bottom here, I think there's some docs explaining what the feature gates are doing. And we don't even have that many feature gates in kubeadm. Currently, we have only 2, but they insisted that we have such a page. I did not disagree. But yeah, this is out of band for 122, but eventually we are going to start documenting the feature gates, like no docs are present and to anticipate it. For this feature, we are basically going to look for feedback from consumers and eventually decide what we are going to do about configuring it, because the feature gate currently will just enable it always by default, and maybe we want to have a way to disable this or make it like somehow configurable for particular users, maybe in the next kubeadm API, which is potentially V1 Beta 4. And these are the new features. I wanted to show the release timeline as well. So July 8th, code freeze is tomorrow. We don't have any critical pending changes to merge until tomorrow. Test freeze is also this related to tests for new features. We already added our tests. I don't know if we have any docs that we want to do. I think I should double check the CLI if we want to update something, but I think we already did this correctly because in the tracking issues that we have good enumeration of all the tasks that we want to do. Yeah, we need to also start testing the 122 branch once it's created. We have a tracking issue for that in the housekeeping tasks. Yeah, so I'm hoping that somebody will help us with that. It's going to be fairly easy to update at this point. And no critical issues are pending in this milestone. I did some issue triage last week, and I think this week as well. I moved a lot of tickets from the 122 milestone to the next milestones that we have, and this is what we have left in the 122 cycle, which is basically some help wanted documentation fixes and maybe open discussion on these things that we couldn't merge. But I'm going to everything that is design and feature, I'm going to move to the next milestone at this point. Sorry, after code freeze tomorrow. And yeah, that's what we have. It's in a pretty good shape, this release. This is like a PSA. It is being updated to 3.5 because currently we're using an RC version in Kubernetes, which is it's a bit absurd if we're going to release 122 with a pinned version that is an RC. So basically, we're currently waiting on people to approve the change as sons and maintainers of the remaining area that has to see approval. And yeah, we are updating etcd. But given we already tested the RC version of this release of etcd, I don't think that's much of a problem unless etcd broke between the RC and the .0 version. So yeah, that's all I had. Do you have any questions about this kubeadm update to 122?
I don't have question. I want just to thank you and all the other contributors that helped in making this happen, especially people from Google for the rootless and the contributor for China that helped in the API work.
Yeah, I echo your shout out. I already gave a shout out to the Google contributor in the shout outs channel. Our regular Chinese contributors have been doing tremendous work to help us with a lot of these features with review, especially the V1 Beta 3 API tasks. I don't think I could have completed the work without them. And they helped with review and PRs. So that was great collaboration.
Definitely.
Okay, Fabrizio, you have a item?
Yeah, it's not super urgent. It's something that we can review. Is there are no other topic in agenda or no other things that you want to talk about? But if I was basically checking a bit of code of kubeadm while helping a colleagues that is working on the kubelet authentication proposal for cluster API, and I stumbled on this function, and I'm wondering if there is something that can be improved. So if you have time, we take a look and we discuss here. Otherwise, I can open an issue, or we can have a separate discussion. Up to you to decide it is worth to be discussed in this meeting or not.
I don't see other agenda topics, so we can discuss it, I guess.
Okay, so this function, as far as I understood it, basically is doing three things. So the function is writing down the kubelet, the bootstrap kubeconfig for kubelet. First thing. The second thing that it is doing is it is checking if there is already another node with the same node name. And it is a little bit down. Okay. And the third thing that that this function is doing is it is writing basically the kubelet configuration to disk. So we write kubeconfig and then it tries to restart the kubelet and wait. Is that fair as a understanding?
Yes, it also annotates the CRI socket.
Yeah, okay. After kubelet, it is restarted. Okay, you are right. So let's focus on the three first things. So what I'm a little bit puzzled is about the order. So because I was expecting that. So the first one is the check. In my opinion, the check basically blocks the process of joining. Okay, and in my opinion, what I'm a little bit confusing is that I was expecting us to check for an existing node before writing the bootstrap config. Because if we write the bootstrap config, basically kubelet will start no matter if the check pass or fail, or I'm wrong.
So we are using the Bootstrap client to check the nodes. Otherwise, we don't have a client.
Yeah, but you can create a Bootstrap client even before writing the Bootstrap config.
Okay, I think I see that we stopped the kubelet here, which ideally we should be doing before we do this check.
I think that the check should be really the first thing in this procedure. So let's see if there is already another node. If not, then I have to do whatever is necessary to start the node.
Yeah, this is basically some of the mechanics in kubeadm are a bit sparse when we're talking about kubelet restarts. Honestly, I think we should just stop the kubelet at the top of this function.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because I think that we should stop the kubelet when we know that we are going on with the join procedure. Otherwise, the check will fail and kubelet will remain stopped.
Well, if it fails, it fails. Okay, basically you're asking that we shouldn't write the bootstrap config to disk before we do this check.
Yeah, this is the first point. So let me say, in order to make this operation a little bit more robust, so I'm wondering if we make the check, if we can change this order. So do the things in this order. First, do the check. If it fails, we exit without doing nothing on kubelet. Then,
so first we obtain the bootstrap config.
yeah, we obtain the bootstrap config, but we don't write it to disk. So we write it to disk only after the check is passed.
I see. We also apparently fetch the CA from this from the bootstrap. This has to happen
Only if the check passes.
Okay.
Okay, and then the second point is that what happened now is that now I write the bootstrap config, before writing the kubelet configuration.
Yeah. So the kubelet crash loops. There's also possibility for it to crash loop between these two stages, because you don't have the CA on disk yet.
Yeah, but what happens if I have the bootstrap kubelet and for any reason I don't get to write the kubelet configuration? Is that the kubelet start with a default?
It's just I completely disagree with the kubelet crash loop behavior in kubeadm. I will let you know about this bit. So
Yeah.
I don't like the crash loop, and I agree that with the change that you are proposing.
Okay, I will open an issue so we can discuss it, because yeah, I was reviewing this code with a colleague, and this sequence kind of ringed some bell to me, because it is, in case of problem, basically we leave the kubelet with a bootstrap config and without a configuration, and the kubelet will start, I guess.
Oh, it's already stuck because you are crash looping it from the beginning.
Yeah, but as soon as you have the bootstrap config, the kubelet will start talk to the API server.
Yeah, it can potentially spam a little.
Yeah, and so I want to be sure that the kubelet start talking with the API server when he gets a proper configuration, and we are sure that we have to complete the init.
Yeah, I can see this function is needing some refactor. I don't think this is critical to merge for 122.
No, it's not for 122. I prefer to, if we are going to change this, I prefer to have it at the beginning of the cycle, and so we get as much as.
Yeah, it's going to work. It's going to work fine. This is not a super difficult area of the code base. Do you have somebody that can work on it?
No, I just not said this in the call before this one, so I don't have a.
Because you saw, you mentioned that you saw it with someone that you were working on.
Yeah, I was discussing the kubelet authentication for CAPI with Yuvaraji, and we were investigating how it works just half an hour ago, and I stumbled into this procedure, and while basically reading this procedure with Yuvaraji, I noticed that the ordering of things is kind of confusing to me, and so this is why I raised this point here. That's it. I will open an issue by not worry, so we can discuss and take the proper time to decide if to go on or not.
Please label the issue with cleanup and things like that with the labels.
Yeah, of course.
Mika Hausler from AWS. I think I explained what they were doing. They were doing something like a mechanism that runs in parallel to kubeadm join and prepares like a service that is in the background that controls like a separate authenticator and things like that. It's rather complicated, but they basically wanted for us to provide subphases for this particular function, to break it down into subphases, which in a way makes sense. But a couple of points here that if we did that, the refactor that you're proposing will be a breaking change. And also, quite unfortunately, but the way we implemented phases, every time we break something into subphases, that is a breaking change in itself. Because of the O argument at the end, maybe you remember the discussions with Rosti and Rafael. And the way we did it, it's every time we break something into phases is a breaking change, which is difficult.
I got it. I'm not talking. I don't remember the request from Mikhail, but I think that there is an underlying topic, which is there are people that want to use kubeadmin join but they don't want kubeadmin to basically lay out Kubernetes kubelet credential. I think that's the request, because they want to use hardware verification or stuff like that, and it is now difficult to plug such tools into the kubeadmin workflow. That's it. So they want it. Please go on.
Yeah, and phases are difficult for us to maintain. Because making changes to the phases is difficult. So once we broke something into subphases, it's a contract with the users. It's an API.
Yeah.
All right. If you add the help wanted label, I'm sure that somebody will like to refactor it. And if you provide sufficient details, like with blobs of how to move things around, somebody's going to take it for sure.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else. Scott, do you have any topics for today?
Nothing from my side.
Right. I guess we can get almost 30 minutes back. Oh, sorry, more than 30 minutes back. Thank you for joining, and see you again in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.